Gary DePaul with Unlabeled Leadership. Welcome to episode 60. Nicole Jones nurtures progressive partnerships. A shout out to listeners in Jackson, Mississippi, Ridgeland, Mississippi, Kalispell, Montana, Papillion, Nebraska, and Amherst, New Hampshire. With that, let's get started. Executives must know how to handle numerous stressors, meeting difficult deadlines, ensuring profitability, managing challenging personalities, and dealing with competitive priorities with limited resources. To overcome them, you need to maintain perspective on what's important and operate from guiding principles. Neither is easy to do, and that's why you need Nicole Jones. From being a professional singer to achieving the designation of Certified Professional Coach, Nicole has had a fulfilling career, helps executives and professionals unlock their true potential and realize their vision. On her LinkedIn profile, she writes, "Without having a personal vision of where we want to go in life and in our careers, we often get stuck and continue to get in our own way. And getting in our own way, I think that's part of the human condition. We cannot excel in life without the help of other people, and a coach helps us get out of our own way. I know because I have one. We need people like Nicole." Part 1. Room to Grow. This story illustrates what inspired Nicole to become a coach, and it may have even inspired her mission, helping others win and where she can. This story also illustrates how believing in someone can help them achieve the extraordinary. Here's Nicole with her story.
The story that I'm going to share with you today is around when I transitioned from working in the finance industry. I moved over to the biotech industry, and I had no real understanding of what I was getting myself into, except that I really wanted to change and I wanted to be in a position where I could really help people in a different type of way.
That is a huge change from finance to biotech. I mean, it's not subtle.
Not subtle, but I mean, before finance, I was a musician, so that's another story
That's
for
right.
another day. I really took the job because of the manager that I was going to be working with. I mean, she was phenomenal. I was like, you know what, you always have transferable skills. And I knew that I felt very strong in my skill set. But in terms of really understanding the industry, I said, I'm going to take a leap of faith. When I got the job offer, I decided to take it. And I was so excited. I was there for about a month, I believe. And she said, "Hey, do you have a minute?" I said, "Sure." She said, "I just wanted to let you know that I just gave my 2 weeks." And my heart fell to the ground. I mean, I was like, "Wait, I came here for you." Like, I really did. And she was like, "Oh, but you're good. You're good. You're ready. You're ready." And I'm like, "No, I'm not ready. This is going to be so tough." And so I really, really struggled because, she was the person that I kind of looked up to and was ready to come to work with a really strong boss. And her boss at the time was pregnant and was going to have a baby, I think, within 3 months. My boss left. Her boss, which became my boss, left. My boss had reported to the CEO. So now my role was going to be directly reporting to a CEO. They ended up hiring a person that was going to fulfill the role as my boss, and he was going to be a VP of the department. And I was so excited. I helped interview. He seemed like he was going to be a great source of insight for me and guidance for me. And he lasted 2 days.
Oh, wow.
I was on a business trip with my CEO and we landed. I was working in Boston at the time. We landed at Logan Airport and we got a call from my boss that was basically on maternity leave. And she said, "You'll never believe what I'm going to tell you, but the gentleman that we hired, while he did like this job, he decided he wanted to go somewhere else. So he's not going to be working here." So in that moment, I mean, I was really stressed because I knew that my boss was going to be out on maternity leave and she was really, really high profile at the company. And I was like, here I am, like little me, just coming in here as like a little manager and great skill set, but I don't have the terminology and knowledge. And one day my CEO called me down to his office and he was like, "Hey, I just want to talk to you for a moment." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'm sure you're a little stressed. You accepted this job and you originally came for the boss and then she left and now your other boss is on maternity leave and you got me and that's all you have right now. And I'm sure that's tough because I'm so senior. I'm running the company, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, sir." I mean, I was just kind of like deer in headlights in his office because I didn't know what he was going to tell me. But he said, you know what? We have decided to not hire anyone, and we're going to see what you can do.
That's a leap of faith.
Leap of faith. And he looked at me and he said, this is something that he said that I'll never forget. He said, you know, sometimes when you give a person some room, some space to grow, they often surprise you. And oftentimes they surprise themselves. And I was like, oh, it's a lot of leap of faith here. That's a lot of like pressure. And, you know, I was kind of stressed for the moment. He's like, but just take your time. It's not that you're going to be by yourself. You know, we're here to help and support you. But we just want to let you know that we believe that you can do this. We really have faith in you. From the person who got hired, that was like, you know, I feel like I was getting baptized by fire and had no idea what I was doing. But I was like, I have a strong skill set and I'm going to do this and let's give it a try. I went from, I don't know if I could ever do this to, well, here it is. It's your time to shine. You've got to figure it out. At that moment, when he told me that, that completely affected me because as I ended up staying at that company for 6.5 years, I ran a department. I had a part-time assistant, another assistant person that came in to work with me. We got a drug approved. We had to do a lot of the PR and investor relations around that. And so I never forgot those words of, you know, you give someone a little space or some room to grow. They may surprise you and you may in the end surprise yourself. And that's really what happened. I totally surprised myself. I didn't realize I had that in me. And I often believe sometimes they weren't quite sure either. But in the end, it just turned out to be something really amazing.
I think about this. There seems to be a choice. You can hire someone who has all the qualifications, all the experience, has done this for years,
Mm-hmm.
and risk that person not growing in the position or losing motivation because they've done all this before. Or you can hire someone who doesn't have all that experience, but you fall on to what I call the first leadership principle, which is believe in others.
Mm-hmm.
Just what you just said, you give them room to grow. If you put someone in another role, not like a computer programmer into a finance, a tax role, nothing like that. But
No.
when you're dealing with management in particular,
Mm-hmm.
you can do that if you sincerely believe in that person and that person believes you believe in that person and give that person the appropriate support, coaching, and whatever they need.
I totally agree with you. I never forgot that. I never forgot that statement that he made to me because that's how I ended up looking at others and not being like a micromanager, a person who just wanted to always be over someone, right? I really feel like if you give someone a little bit of space, they can blossom, they can grow, they can become a butterfly. There's so many things that can happen. I have never forgotten that. And I take that with so many things that I do on my day to day. My child with, just anything that I'm doing, I'm thinking, look, just give a little room, just give a little room and just see what happens.
When you give a little room, that allows a person to think for themselves,
Hmm.
be creative, be innovative, make choices versus what you're talking about, the opposite end, where you're telling the person what to do and you don't give that person room to grow if you were doing that micromanaging.
That really stunts someone's growth, right?
Yeah.
When you're kind of overseeing someone 24/7. And it also allows a person to really feel like if I do the best that I can and it's a failure or it's not a success at that moment, but you also learn that too. And you learn how to take that in stride. And it's a teachable moment. It's a moment of, okay, while we may feel like it was a failure, in the end, it probably was a success and that it turned out that way. And then you pivoted and you moved on and you kept it down a different path or whatever. That's another thing, giving people room to grow. There's so many areas of growth. Learning to have an outcome that wasn't so wonderful was also a great learning moment.
That reminds me of something an audit firm partner said to me, which was, let me rephrase that. I asked him, what does it take to get fired? Because he just had a partner reporting to him lose something like $1.5 million in a year and wasn't going to fire him. And he said, the way you get fired around here is if you breach ethics. $1.5 million is a really good learning experience that I know that person will never make that mistake again and will develop and grow from that. And I'm sure I'll get a return on investment because of that.
Hmm. And I would agree with you. See, we sometimes look at the, oh, someone made a mistake as it's a bad thing,
It's a learning
right? And
thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's a learning thing. And I'm with you on the whole ethical aspect around that, the story that the partner told you, really looking at the values and ethics around something. Most people they judge themselves a lot harder than a person would ever judge them. I know when I make a mistake, I can be so hard on myself, harder than any boss has probably been on me. They know. You know, when you've done something or you're like, oh, I put my best foot forward and it didn't work out the way that I thought, it's okay. You know, you bounce back from it. You try to be resilient and move on and you learned. Having this moment of having someone allow me to have that space really was a point where I feel like I grew my career because in the next place that I went, it was like, okay, I can do this. Like I built that confidence that I knew what this department needed, or I knew how to run things at another company because I had the skills and I also had the lingo and I understood how to interact with certain management. I mean, there was so much that I learned in that one moment where I was so small thinking, there's no way that I could do this. I'm not the right person. And he was quick to be like, oh, well, maybe you are. And let's see.
Part 2, Enabling Dynamic Teaming. Performance consultants work hard at building trusted partnerships with clients. Opposed to being a commodity, offering a product or service. Sometimes in the US, they call it cookie cutter, having a cookie cutter solution. Sometimes we treat our own roles in corporate America as a commodity. We show up for work, do what needs to get done, leave, and then go back to our lives. When we do that, we don't develop ourselves in the roles. We just show up for the paycheck. Regardless of role, Nicole treats everyone she works with as trusted partners, not commodities. This story illustrates just that. Here's Nicole.
I had just realized when I was working in this one role that, there was a lot of work coming in and I needed a part-time assistant, or I just needed an assistant. If I could get part-time, it's great. So I ended up getting an assistant that worked with me and then 2 other departments. And I was a solo person. I had no other people in my department at the time. We hired this woman who was like, yeah, I'm just an assistant and I want to be here to support you guys any way that I can. And I was like, oh, that's great. So we sat down in our first meeting and I was like, oh, so, what is it that you want to do? Are you wanting to be a full-time assistant? Do you want to go into being an executive assistant? Do you want to transition to a different type of career? And she's like, I don't really know. And I said, okay. And so at that moment, I kind of planted the seed and was like, well, why don't I just kind of take you on the journey with me? Like, let me share some of the things that I do, mentor you a little bit, and just let you kind of be part of some of the decisions in the department and really give you a clear understanding as to what this role is really about and how it works within this company. She was kind of like, yeah, that would be great. Took it very matter of fact and just kind of lightly. I wasn't sure how interested she was at the time, but we sat down. We would have a meeting once a week. I told her, I said, hey, why don't you come in with an agenda? I want to hear some of the things that you think the department should try, need to do, something that I maybe need to be better at. However you see it, I would just love to see what kind of agenda you bring into a meeting for us, just one-on-one. And it's just the 2 of us. And we sat down and little by little each week, the meetings got more interesting and she'd come up with these great ideas. I feel like, oh, this is wonderful. Like, wow, thank you for taking a lead on that. Or she's like, oh, I started, I looked at a press release and I knew that you needed a draft of something. I kind of put a little something together and I'm like, wow, like this is great. And over time, I started just seeing so many little changes in her. I started seeing some work ethic changes. I started seeing how much pride she was taking in this new role, even though in her heart of hearts, or she would look at me and be like, I'm just a part-time assistant. And I remember one day I looked at her and I said, no one's just anything.
Yeah.
I told her that I really enjoyed working with her and I really enjoyed seeing how much she started to grow. But it was my time to leave the company. I said, my promise to you will be that the next person that I hire to take my role will still have your back, will still try to help you move up to figure out what you want to do with your career. But I will always remain a mentor to you even after I go. And we only worked together probably, I think, for like 5 or 6 months.
Oh, okay.
And I left. We stayed in touch. She continued to work with the person that took my role. She continued to help and water and fertilize that seed. Today, that just a part-time assistant that I had now has a pretty senior role in an investor relations and communications department.
And I believe you gave her room to grow.
Gave her room to grow. Yes, that was my that was my learning. It's something that I passed on. She really surprised herself. This was a woman who was like, "Oh, I'm just a part-time assistant. I don't really know what I want to do." But something told me I'm just going to plant the seed and take her along a journey with me. And if she wants to be part of that journey and learn and get some tools with what I was doing, great. If not, she's still going to be on a journey to learn, and she'll start figuring out where she wants to go.
I like how you describe what that first meeting with her, asking her to come with an agenda. It was, in a sense, it was not only believing in her, but it was opening the room for collaboration, for her to be creative and giving her permission to take initiative. And it sounds like that's exactly what she did and ended up in a senior level position.
Yeah, I'm really proud of her. The thing that I realized early on in my career is that it's okay to come to a meeting and be prepared. It's okay to it's actually not even okay. It's kind of expected. Like you should be coming to a meeting and be prepared and be able to share your thoughts. And I wanted her to understand it's like, look, I'm bringing you to the table with me, and I want you to have a voice at the table. I'm not just bringing you so that you can keep my notes and that you can make sure that I'm where I need to be and you can make my travel and that kind of thing. I really wanted it to be a partnership, but I also wanted to be able to share any learnings that I could along the way to really help her figure out what type of career, or to take the tools that she could learn from our working together into the career that she so desired in the end.
That is such a huge difference from the command and control approach, like the antithesis of traditional 20th century leadership assumptions. I mean, it's just completely the opposite.
Completely. And I think part of it too is that I worked in roles that were highly micromanaged. And that was a promise that I always had to myself when I'm managing people, that that is not the way that people grow. That's not the way that people are creative and innovative. That's just a way that kind of silences people. And I just did not want to offer that to anyone else that worked in a partnership with me in any role that I had. It's just because I don't feel like you get the best out of people. And she worked so hard in ways that I don't think she even knew that she could. The small agenda that I started with her was something that really changed for her. She started realizing like I would come, I'd be ready for that meeting, and I'd always have that little agenda that you told me to prepare so that I could engage in a conversation with you, which then turned her other part-time bosses. She would take an agenda to their meetings as well. But I was the only one that told her to do that and to try it and see what would happen. And they were like, wow, she comes to the meetings. She has like an agenda. Like she's an assistant. I'm like, oh, but she's not just an assistant.
Oh, no. No, definitely not. It sounds like, though, that because of your approach and the way you did things, I mean, obviously she was more motivated, enjoyed the role more. It sounds like you enjoyed your role more because of how she approached her role.
I really did. I mean, my life's mission is to help when and where I can because I can. And if I see a need, if I see anywhere where I can assist naturally, not trying to fight through to like make someone do something, but I feel like I gave her a safe space to be able to share with me, to be able to tell me what she was interested in, her likes, her dislikes. I kind of just went from there. And I really did look at her as a partner. I didn't look at her as she's working for me. I looked at it, she's working with me, and together we can be a dynamic team.
Part 3, From Assumptions to Acronyms. Like effective consulting, much of leadership is about understanding the perspective of other people. That may sound easy enough, but it's not. When talking to people, we want to share our perspective, but we have to resist doing that, or at least resist doing it until we really understand and inquire what other people are thinking and why they're thinking what they're thinking, which leads us to Nicole and the advice she has to offer us. Here's Nicole.
I always want people to be thinking about, really challenge themselves when it comes down to assumptions. Sometimes we're not really present and we see a lot of things that are going on, or feedback comes our way, or we're sitting in a meeting and someone says something and we don't ask the proper question to get the answer that maybe we're looking for. And we allow an assumption or something that has happened before in the situation to dictate how we actually are going to receive what's going on right now. And this is an area that I think a lot of us struggle in. And we play either the what if scenario a lot, like, well, I wonder if they would have just done this, or if they would do this, instead of just simply knocking on someone's door or sitting in a meeting and just flat out ask the question. How would X, Y, and Z work if we did it this way? What were you thinking when you did this kind of assumption around these numbers, or what have you? But assumptions can really take us down the wrong path if we don't understand that we're having assumptions. But even if after we understand them, it's so important to know what the right questions are to ask around a certain assumption. We really want to get the answers and get to the core and the root of what's going on.
Coach Khan, who was on the show a while ago, he said we need someone to ask those simple, obvious questions when we're having a dialogue, because those simple and obvious questions become assumptions when we assume we know the answers.
Yeah.
And it sounds like if we don't ask, what brought you to this? What are you thinking? Getting behind the scenes, we may need to validate our own assumptions. Both of those are really important.
Very important. Part of what goes along with that is clarifying something that you don't understand in the conversation. And that's another part of the assumption. If you're not clarifying what someone is saying, let me just make sure I understand what you were saying. Let me make sure I heard that correctly. Am I on the right page with you? When we don't do those things enough, then your definition of the color blue and my definition of the color blue could be very different. And so now we could be going down this path of assumption, and then we get into the mess that sometimes happens when I'm assuming and you're assuming. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, I thought you were going to work on that project. Oh, no, I thought, no, what I said. And that's how these things happen. And there's miscommunications and that kind of thing. It's very important to ask, like you were saying, simple questions, sometimes difficult, direct and honest questions, and sometimes clarifying questions, so that assumptions don't run you down a path of pain.
There was an article written by Mark Graham Brown called Bull Speak, Why Business People Speak Like Idiots. And what he was talking about, I'll add a link to the article in the show notes.
Definitely.
What he was talking about were all these buzzwords and spin and corporate talk and lingo and acronyms. One of his points was, if you don't understand when someone is using what he calls bull speak, ask.
Yeah.
I worked with an IT department. Oh, gosh, a long time ago. I had someone who was my counterpart in the IT department that I worked with. I don't think he could speak a sentence without an acronym. I would ask him, what is that acronym? And sometimes he didn't know.
Correct.
You know, that's another area that gets people in trouble, is when they start using these buzzwords and lingo and they walk out of a meeting. It's like, what did we just decide?
I would feel that way when I'd sit in these clinical meetings, and they had so many acronyms to the point where I had to start taking notes to go look it up after. And that was when I had first started. And then after, I had been there for like a little bit over a year or a couple years, I was like, guys, when you had meetings with outside cross-functional departments come in here to understand where we are, timelines and that kind of thing, you have to talk to everyone in the room and not just to all the medical people. You have to break it down a little bit. Sometimes people don't realize that. Sometimes it takes a brave soul to be like, hey guys, for the layman in the room, could we break that down a little bit?
Like in English?
Understand? Correct. Not in Latin, even though I took Latin for 5 years, but could we break it down a little bit? Because yes, that I agree with you, Gary. The acronyms, the abbreviations, all this stuff is like, what are we talking about? I just really want to know the timeline so that I can make sure the investors understand where our debt are going to be available.
Exactly.
That's all I want to know in this meeting. So yeah.
Thanks to Nicole Jones. If you want to learn more about Nicole, go to the show notes. And if you have a question or comment, go to unlabelleadership.com. Look for the message icon. When you click it, you can leave a voicemail up to 1 minute. I'd like to thank those who support the show. Your support helps offset some of the production cost. But mostly, I want to thank you for listening. Until next time, lead on.